We ask that you click, listen, and learn, and we hope that we can help people think differently about global issues, especially those issues that affect Africa. Good morning, Monique.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's been a great week.
It's a very, very hot London here. So it's not unlike last week when it was raining. We have a very hot weather, and we were sitting actually under the gazebo. We had barbecue last night. We're going to have another barbecue later. So it's all good.
You sound like you got a little bit of Texas there in London, talking about
Yes.
barbecue and the hot weather. Yeah, we're hoping that that people that maybe had tuned in last week are tuned back in this week. We hope we picked up some new listeners. Last week we discussed issues that affect education in Africa and the dynamics that impact children learning and children going to school. And once we finish the show, we make sure that we make the show available online to people. We're still developing our online resources, but we have posted the show on YouTube, and I am very, very active on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter. Just follow.
You see, today's show, we were going to invite a special guest to come and talk about the issues that were going in the Congo, but because our guest has been doing other activities, so he will be coming probably next week.
I really want to have a certain individual on the show to discuss issues in Congo. Congo is, it's the heart of Africa. It's really the heart of a lot of issues that are going on in the world in terms of conflict, and it's getting a lot of attention from NGOs and charities. Last week was a huge week for the organization that this young man belongs to, and I want to make this week's show about resources, and I want to point people to resources that people can access online and learn more. This particular organization is called Friends of the Congo, and you can find them online just at friendsofthecongo.org, and they're doing great work, and there's great people involved with them, and really what they're doing is they're raising consciousness about the challenges of the Congo, and they're supporting Congolese institutions as they work to bring about peaceful and lasting change in the Congo. And they also have just a fantastic short documentary. It's about 20 minutes. It's not a very long, involved documentary, so it's worth watching. But it's a documentary called "Crisis in the Congo: Uncovering the Truth," and I highly recommend that people look it up online. Google it, look it up on YouTube. Again, it's called Crisis in the Congo, Uncovering the Truth. So next week, we're hoping to have on a representative of Friends in the Congo to discuss their work and how people can learn more and how they can be effective in helping the Congolese.
Yeah, I totally agree, Michael, because you see, we hear about the Congo, and because all the geopolitics is so complex that the narrative, because we hear different version of it. So it's good that you're going to bring this young man who's from Congo, because he knows, because we need now to start dealing with the stakeholders. These are the people who are the future of their own country.
Yeah, in discussing narratives, there's a quote that just struck me, a very powerful quote by a great African leader, Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first president of independent Ghana. The glory of the hunt will always celebrate the hunter until the lion learns to speak. The people with certain interests or agendas, as long as they get to control the narrative, that's the story that people will go with. Now, what I really believe that the power of social media is giving a voice to the lion. And actually, there's been a term coined by George Ayite called the cheetah generation. The cheetahs are waking up, and the cheetahs are starting to speak, and the cheetahs are utilizing social media to reach out to people to take back the African narrative and to really, we'll say, resurrect on a global scale the African tradition of storytelling. You and I both know that Africa has a very oral tradition of storytelling. Documentation is more of a, documenting everything and writing things down for the history books. And of course, to the victor goes the spoils. The victors get to document history. That's a very Western tradition. The African tradition is more oral. But what's happening now with social media is that those oral traditions and that knowledge and that wisdom and the stories and the narrative is now being taken back, especially by young Africans. And it's a fascinating thing to watch.
Yeah, Michael, I watched this film, Crisis in the Congo. I must have watched it about 10, maybe 20 times. I'm like completely shocked, because we hear about 10 million people have been killed in Congo. And all we hear about Congo is the displacement of innocent people, of people from their land, because their land is being sold for mining. All you see in the Great Lakes region, all you see is the movement of people. From one, all you see is like the migration of people. These are people now, they have no land, they have nowhere to go.
Land is a resource that for generations, and probably since the beginning of time, the beginning of humanity, land has been a commodity that's always been fought over. And it's really about land and resources. And unfortunately, what you see is the displacement of people, refugees. You hear about camps, wars, conflicts. People basically being shoved about the land and moved about the land. And one of the things that I hope people get to think differently about these issues, because I bring up things like, if the Congolese people are being shifted and displaced and moved around their own land because of conflict, then why aren't these mining companies being displaced because of conflict? I mean, if it's so dangerous, then wouldn't a corporation pack up their bags and flee? Because
I totally, I agree, because in the midst of the crisis or of the conflict in Congo, we have some of the biggest multinational corporations operating in this region. And we get told these are rebel group. We were told about the LRA, who is Joseph Kony. I do not believe that Joseph Kony is even in that region. If he is in that region, it's very inactive. The narrative that is not really told to the masses, to the people, is that Congolans have maybe over 500 different rebel groups. So we have the Hutus that took refuge in Congo. Rwanda ordered a lot of these refugees to be killed. These were women and children. Refugees have protection under international law. And we don't hear any, within the international community, we do not hear one person condemning Rwanda for the act of genocide in the Congo.
Yeah, and that's something that gets discussed in the film Crisis in the Congo, because it does talk about the socio-political elements and the influence of outside forces, of neighboring countries, whether it's Rwanda or Uganda, the influence even of the United States in the conflict. Because one of the things that I point out is, there's organizations that really highlighted the issue of conflict minerals. There have been issues going on in Africa, over the years where, people have seen movies like Blood Diamonds. So people then want to say, well, I want to make sure I get my diamonds from a conflict-free zone, so that way I don't feel guilty about, somebody being hacked to death, to mine my diamonds. So, the focus becomes on the resources that come out of the land. But the thing that I want people to think about is when you talk about conflict minerals, and there's organizations out there saying, put pressure on corporations that use conflict minerals. The big one is like coltan that's being mined from the Congo that's used in technology, specifically in cell phones. So, there's organizations that say, put pressure on these organizations to not use conflict minerals, or, divest in those companies. Don't invest in them. Don't, distance yourself from them, or shame them. Shame them on social media. Shame them. Do you know who the number one customer of coltan or a lot of the conflict minerals is? The number one customer is the United States military, because all this technology that we use as consumers is also used for military. The U.S. military is a huge customer of using those resources that go into the technology that's used. So, if we're going to put pressure on corporations to divest in those resources, why wouldn't people also put pressure on military contractors who build drones, or who build, instruments of surveillance, or weapons or armaments? Those same people utilize those same minerals. But what I also want to do is point out some other resources that people can use. These will be resources and people, just like we spoke about Friends of the Congo and trying to get them representative of the organization on. I want to discuss a few other resources and just some organizations that are doing fantastic work in communities. Really what makes the difference about an effective organization, finding organizations that are incredibly transparent. If you aren't transparent, that should raise a red flag with people and supporters. If organizations are evasive, if they try and direct you in a different, if they're elusive, if they play politics with you, if you've ever seen a politician in a debate, or a politician who is answering questions from the press, and somebody asks a difficult question, it's almost like the politician is reading a canned answer, or they're answering something that has absolutely nothing to do with the question. Well, I've seen some organizations do that, and they're being evasive. And people need to question why they're being evasive and why they're redirecting the conversation and redirecting the narrative.
Also, what most people do, they know about the big organizations, they know about the big charity or NGOs, but there are lots of community-based, or African helping themselves, African helping African, and because they know the structure, they know the culture, they know the land, and what they're doing is far more resourceful than a very big organization that they get a lot of money, but most of this money is not even used into the place where people think that they're donating money for a region, but the money is actually used mainly for their admin or running their office.
Yeah, well, there's administrative costs, and of course we know that administrative costs in the Western world, whether you're paying rent for your building or paying salaries, or your office supplies, or even travel expenses. A lot of these organizations say that they want to raise awareness. Well, they have to go places to speak. So, there's airfare, there's transportation costs. All those administrative costs are not going to people on the ground. So the organizations that I've really, really found to be effective are led by stakeholders. They're led by local stakeholders. People. Yes. They're community-based. They are connecting directly. If they aren't living in the community, they're from that community. I know several people who basically had an opportunity to get an education. They were given scholarships. Rather than escape their community, they are paying it forward. They are going back to their community, and they realize the power that they have to affect change in their own community by by giving back and really realizing that the opportunities that they have been given are an incredible blessing that maybe they did not deserve or they did not earn, and they are giving back to their community. Those are the organizations that I just love to brag about, to boast about, and to advocate for. And they're out there. And people, if they research, they'll find them. But I hope our show will be a way for people to quickly find those type of organizations.
Can you give the website or the name of the organization you're talking about?
I like to advocate and boast about these type of organizations. So I have a website that I run, a blog site called Independent Global Citizen. So if you just Google or search Independent Global Citizen, it's independentglobalcitizen.com. I tell all
if they Google Michael Kirkpatrick, they should be able to find that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm very active on social media, and people will be able to find my resources there. But on my website, I talk about these organizations, and I'll mention a few of them. And as we're wrapping up the show here, one of them is the Nyaka School, which is based in Western Uganda, and it's led by a Ugandan gentleman named Jackson Kaguri. He's got a book called School for My Village. CNN named him as a CNN hero last year. He really has a great holistic approach to community-based work as a stakeholder in Uganda. I'd also like to mention...
Mike, can we spell it?
It's Nyaka. So if you just do a search on Nyaka, but the website is nyakaschool.org. So look and see what they're doing. Another one is Hope North, really a fantastic organization.
Yeah, we have had a lot of interaction with Hope North.
Yeah, and I'll close the show with a quote. This is a quote by a gentleman named Sam Okello. Sam Okello was the founder of Hope North. And this is just, I love this quote because it encapsulates everything I believe in. And the quote is, peace is created when you have the correct knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, then you are insecure. And insecure people are the ones who cause trouble. It's all about gaining knowledge and wisdom. People who feel inferior, people who are desperate, do desperate things.
Yeah, Mike, what we should do as well, Sam Okello story is really, really interesting. It's amazing because up north, he brought the people who were in the IDP camps. They call it the internal displaced persons camp. I call what was in northern Uganda a concentration camp. This was a camp that was there for people to go and die, and hundreds and thousands of actually people perished in these camps. So what Sam Okello did was to take the people away from a place called Pajule. So can you,
He gave them a haven to escape these camps. And people can look up Hope North. It's hopenorth.org. People can find resources there. I'm incredibly impressed with Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Whitaker won an Academy Award for The Last King of Scotland. And while researching for his role as Idi Amin, which he won the Academy Award for, Sam Okello, who also stars in the film, and Forrest Whitaker was so impressed with Sam's work and the work of Hope North that he is a huge advocate and a huge supporter of Hope North.
Yeah.
And now Forrest Whitaker has become just a phenomenal advocate for peace. So again, the time has flown by, and there's things left unsaid that we'll have to wait until next week.
Yes, guys, the time has just gone by.
So thank you for tuning in, Monique. It's been great talking with you, and we'll speak to you again next week.
It's wonderful talking to you as well. Yeah, we meet next week, Saturday. We will talk about Congo next week. We will have our guest. Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you, Michael.
No problem, Monique. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very much pleased to bring to you the African community here in Atlanta, the Monique and Mike show, live from ABN 1100.